Okay, we got about 5 minutes. Erin's here. No, she's on Zoom. No, she's on Zoom. No. Let's get away from the microphone. Come on in, everybody. Keith, are we live? Good to see everyone joining us, participating online. Good to have everybody here. We're going to get going in just a couple minutes. Yes. Yep. Absolutely. I don't want to ruin the aesthetics of the table with my coffee mug on it, though. I think we should give a prize to the first person who comes and sits in one of these seats. There you go, Ellen. There you go. No, I'll eat later. I had a little breakfast sandwich early this morning. I don't eat a lot on Sundays. It's weird. My stomach is just sort of. I don't eat breakfast. I drink tons of coffee on an empty stomach, which probably isn't a great idea.
Chocolate for me.
Okay, a couple minutes. Folks are streaming into the room and folks are streaming in online. It's a stream. I stream, you stream, we all stream for ice cream. In the back, yeah, this counts as the back row for here. Yeah, I wondered if I was in the right church earlier this morning because when Ken Turan was here, all the front seats were filled, and I'm like, this doesn't seem like an Episcopal church. All the front seats are filled. I always say we're the only church that people come here early to get a seat in back. And somehow the room knew when it was noon because a hush fell over the crowd. Well, I never want to punish the punctual, so deeply grateful for all of you coming. We're doing something different with the annual meeting this year. In the past, we have had our annual meeting split in two, and it's been in the forum, and that only allowed us to have about 45 minutes for each side because we had to get into church. And we also noticed, and we thought especially it would be true this Sunday, although Kenny Turan kind of was a draw enough to prove us wrong, that we've been getting better attendance at things that are after church because people are already here, and a little less at 9 o'clock for the forum. So we're looking at sort of how do we balance that out and still have really robust and wonderful forums, but also offer more things after church. And part of what we decided this year is we're going to do one annual meeting. We're going to do it after the 10 o'clock service, and we're going to let it go for about 90 minutes. And have, what we always run out of time for is your all's questions and thoughts. And that's so important. We didn't want to run out of time for that. So that's what we're going to be doing here today. So my name is Mike Kinman. My pronouns are he, him. I am blessed to be the rector here at All Saints Church. And I officially call this annual meeting of All Saints Church to order. And will you pray with me, please? God dwells in you. Holy and loving God, giver of all good gifts, we thank you especially for the great gift you give us when you give us to each other in your church. Be present with us as we discern in love the dream that you have for us as All Saints Church, as we appreciate those who have led us this far, as we elect new leaders, and as we look at the deep and joyful calling you put on our hearts. Help us to speak clearly and listen deeply. Help us to hear your still small voice in our hearts, in the spaces between words, and on the lips of one another. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. It is good for us to be here. I hope everyone has an agenda that we're going to be going through. There's a lot of information here, and really we want to keep you informed. Grateful to Keith for live streaming this. Grateful to everyone. Everyone turn and wave at the camera to everyone who's participating online. And that also means if there's something that you sort of say, wow, I didn't quite get that, it's going to be archived on our YouTube page, and you can watch this all over again. You can watch it many, many times. It can be sort of regular viewing at your house if you'd like. We've got a lot to cover. I want to start out by saying I know some of you were here yesterday afternoon, and we had a memorial service for Larry Gonzalez. And today's is Larry's birthday. And I just want to say, we've been together here for about 7.5 years, and I don't know if there was a moment where I have seen this community come together in a more beautiful way. To support Larry, to support Jim, to celebrate Larry's life. The Parish Celebrations team came out. Everyone, it was just, I left yesterday just realizing what a deep honor it is to be in this community and how powerfully the Holy Spirit works through all of us. And it reminded me, and we're talking about a lot of important stuff today. There is nothing more important in this community, and I don't know if there's anything that we do better than just showing up for each other and loving each other, especially when times are hard. And so I just want to say that I want to set that sort of in front of us as we are already the church in such incredibly powerful ways, and I'm deeply grateful. All Saints Church has been around for more than a century. We're celebrating the 100th anniversary of the building. We'll hear a little bit more about that. But congregation's been around longer than that, and this place has not stayed the same. We wouldn't be here if we'd stayed the same. And yet there is a constant to the life of this congregation. At least I think from the first time that Jean Bruce Poole wandered in here until today, until when Gloria Pitzer was just in her youth choir robes. There's been some constants. And a couple years ago, we got together and we set a task to say, well, what is, and our former parishioner Brian Robinson, who is now living in Pennsylvania, he said, well, what is what Brian called the special sauce that makes All Saints Church who we are? And we distilled it down to 4 core values. And you see them here: radical inclusion, courageous justice, joyful spirituality, and ethical stewardship. And put another way, when we say we walk with the revolutionary Jesus, and that's the beginning of our mission statement, we're an Episcopal church walking with the revolutionary Jesus. Well, what does that look like? Who is that Jesus? And we say, well, this is really kind of our working definition of who Jesus is. radical inclusion, or maybe radical welcome, courageous justice, joyful spirituality, and ethical stewardship. And I've said this before, what I love the most about these values is the qualifiers. It's not just inclusion or welcome, but it's radical inclusion or welcome. It's courageous justice, which means it's got to be a little scary. It's joyful spirituality. It's ethical stewardship. And as we make decisions and chart the course for the future of this community, these values are our guides. And they're really how we answer the "what would Jesus do" question. And so I am always thrilled, not necessarily about a specific outcome to a conversation, but are we having the conversation based in values, in these values? I remember when we were going through COVID and we had 50 or 60 people living on campus who had nowhere else to live. We had a robust conversation about, well, what do we do? How are we called to respond to this? And there were people who were very concerned with the safety of the buildings, and there were other people who were saying, well, if the buildings aren't here for this, what are they for? And there wasn't a right or a wrong, and what I loved about it is that people of various different opinions were saying, well, what is ethical stewardship? And I loved that that's what happened. And, we came up with the Safe Haven Bridge to Housing program, thanks in large part to the wonderful people at Union Station, because we said, we really need to wrestle with this. We need to wrestle with what the buildings are here for, but also what is the capacity that we have for these buildings. And what I'm going to encourage us to do over and over again when we have questions is to go back to these four values of radical inclusion, courageous justice, joyful spirituality, and ethical stewardship, and look and listen to each other in wisdom. And I want to offer just briefly this morning some ideas of how we live into these values as a community. And I want to sort of briefly frame it with three different texts. First one is Matthew 5:23 to 24. So when you are offering your gift at the altar and you remember that your sibling has something against you, leave your gift there before the altar and go first be reconciled to your sibling and then come and offer your gift. Now, you've heard me say before, the model for our whole community is the Eucharist. And what happens in the Eucharist is we all come to the table and everyone has an equal space at the table, and we lay our whole lives on the table with Christ, and then God does what God does, which blesses that whole mess of life, all of our lives in Christ's life, and then redistributes it to each of us, and we all carry it out into the world. And what it means is whatever you are carrying into that table, when you leave, you're no longer carrying it alone. And we're all in it together. And what can keep us from doing that is when we've wounded each other, and when we have been wounded. And so what St. Paul said, and I've told you I have a love-hate relationship with St. Paul, but Paul does say that we are given by Christ the ministry of reconciliation. Our sister Becca Stevens says there's really only one sacrament with 7 prisms, and that's healing. And so, as I'm fond of saying, for reconciliation, we have an app for that. It is called the Sacrament of Reconciliation, and there's 5 stages. There's self-examination, confession. Self-examination means, okay, I'm going to look at myself and my actions and my inactions and where might I have wounded someone, and I'm actually going to listen to others that I might have wounded. And listen to them and say, can you tell me the impact of what I've said or done or not said or not done has had on you? And then we check in and we say, okay, this is where I think the sin is. And sin's a scary word, but it really just means this is where we messed up. And this is where we've broken relationship. And then we check with the people who we've wounded, and we say, did we get it right? And then there's repentance and reparation. Okay, what can we do, if possible, to repair the damage? To show that it's not just words, that we really mean it. And then there's amendment of life, which is how do we commit to live together differently so that we don't break relationship and hurt each other in the same way. We know we're going to hurt each other again. We're human. That's just what we do occasionally, despite our best efforts. But we try our best not to do it. And then there's absolution, which is a right relationship that we have with each other and with God. And this is a model for our life as a Eucharistic community. And what's exciting to me is the ways that I can see us living into this. Most notably, there's the Telling the Whole Story groups that we have. And throughout this morning, we want to update you on some of them. The first one I want to update you on is the one with the land that we have had, which is the one that's furthest along. And we've used this process. And we did a whole process called Telling the Whole Story of self-examination. And we worked with the Tongva folks. And we worked with folks who knew a lot about redlining, people like the Green Line Housing Foundation. And now that has gone to the Vestry, and the Vestry has moved on to the next stage with a separate group, which is going to be the confession and the repentance reparation. And part of what you're going to see, and this is coming before the Vestry on Tuesday, is people have said, well, why don't you do a land acknowledgement? Well, now we're ready to, because what we've heard from our Tongva siblings is now they would actually appreciate us doing that, because they know that this isn't just words, that it's a process that we're doing, collaboratively with them. And I got to point out for Hannah Earnshaw, they have been such a driving force behind this and doing such incredible work. And then we're going to be and the goal of this, again, is not just to sort of have a land acknowledgement that we read at the beginning of a service or a meeting. The goal of it is that absolution piece. It's restored relationship. And so what we're hoping at the end of this process is that we have a new amazing relationship with everyone who used to dwell on this land. And that we're learning that this land doesn't belong to anyone. I mean, there's a deed in the diocesan office, I suppose. But realistically, this land doesn't belong. We all get to share it. We all get to rejoice in it. We have another group that's starting. It started out being just about our relationship with St. Barnabas, which is another piece where we look at our history. And 100 years ago, when black people came to All Saints Church, they got turned away. And ended up founding a church called St. Barnabas Church in Northwest Pasadena. And they're having their 100th anniversary, and we're having the 100th anniversary of our building, and it is long overdue that we're coming together and just owning this history and saying, okay, we're going to confess where we've broken a relationship, where we've hurt each other. We're going to look at what repentance and reparation look like. We're going to look at how do we live together in joy. And again, the goal and the great thing is we're already living into this. A bunch of us marched in the Black History Month parade together and watched it together. We're growing in friendship and relationship. We've invited them to our Oscar party, and they've invited us to stuff too. And so that's the goal of this, is it's all the goal is new life. And then a third way is over the last 7 years since I came here, there's people who've left this church. And people leave for various reasons, but some of them have left hurting. And they've left feeling like the church kind of left them. And we miss them, and if you're out there watching, we miss you. And we realize that there's been some damage done. And we wanted to listen and learn and see if healing was possible. And so I gathered together a group of people, and it's a wonderful group. Lorna Miller, Jerry Puhara, Stephen Grace Galton, it's Don Miller, Don Thomas. And they did interviews with about 30 people. Who have left the church. And the average time of those interviews was about 2 hours. And people really appreciated being listened to, and they prepared a report that was presented to Vestry, and we've already been working on some of the things that, they said, yeah, this was really hurtful for me, and this is something that I really miss. And we've already done one sort of circle back to that group. And then there's other people who have said, yeah, we want to be interviewed too. And so fortunately that group has said, yeah, we're gonna do some more interviews, and we're finding it to be really holy and healing. And the goal isn't to drag people back to All Saints Church, but the goal is to say, yeah, sometimes people leave, but we want you to leave feeling loved. We want you to leave, if you're going to leave, knowing that we're still siblings. And so that's some of the ways that we're living into these values. The next text is actually two texts. The first is Martin Luther King's. It was actually his final Sunday sermon, and he gave it at National Cathedral called Remaining Awake Through a Great Revolution, and you've heard it before. We shall overcome because the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. But then 5 years earlier, in a letter from the Birmingham jail, he also said, justice too long delayed is justice denied. And so you have, okay, it takes a long time and it can't wait. And we hold these things in tension. We can't do it all. We can't do everything at once. We need to recognize that loving each other through transformation, it is a long process. And even though it cannot be done at the pace of comfort, and not everyone is going to choose to participate in it, and that's okay, that everyone needs to be invited to participate in it. We need to have a potential on-ramp for everybody. And we need to recognize that we are very different people with different social locations and life experiences and different capacities. And we're going to travel at different speeds at different times. And love means just moving forward together. There was that great song that Common wrote for the movie Selma, where he says, it takes the wisdom of the elders and the young people's energy. It takes everyone. There are no disposable people here at All Saints Church. And then another piece to that is it means recognizing that if we are among those for whom justice has been too long delayed, there is pain with every moment that justice is delayed. And part of love is for those of us who aren't feeling that pain to hold that on our hearts as well, and recognizing that for some of us, the price of our comfort with the way things are is someone else's pain and feeling of disenfranchisement. And I don't mean that as a shaming thing. I just mean that's something that we need to just not look away from. And as we look at each other in love, to really let the compassion for each other and hold each other in that love and compassion, and let the love we have for each other be what drives us into places that might be uncomfortable for us personally. But what we know that we're doing is we're becoming the beloved community even more powerfully, and we're easing the pain, and also opening ourselves up to the incredible gifts that we have for one another. So justice is necessary and messy. The only way through it is the messiest of all things, and that's love. And here, that has looked like another one of our Telling the Whole Story groups on the iconography. And that's been a really hard one because we have really strong feelings about the windows in our church and our iconography. And that's, frankly, those feelings have made this a hard process to navigate, and yet we're moving forward. And Steve, I appreciate your persistence, with that, and we're going to keep moving forward with that. It's been that piece of safe parking and that we're looking for, and safe haven, to say, we can't solve homelessness all at once, but one person at a time, we can get people into housing. And Erica, thank you for everything that you've done and been doing for that. It is, yeah. It's balancing standing for a ceasefire now in Gaza and standing with our Jewish siblings who say, well, we need to deal with the existential threat that anti-Semitism has been and continues to be to the Jewish community. And we can do that. We can stand for both of those things, and we can hold each other in that tension and in that trauma, and we can hold the tension between the long arc of the moral universe and that justice delayed is justice denied, and that's nothing new for us at All Saints. Now, the third text is from the Holy Book of Ted Lasso.
Rupert, guys have underestimated me my entire life. And for years, I never understood why. It used to really bother me. But then one day, I was driving my little boy to school, and I saw this quote by Walt Whitman. It was painted on the wall there. It said, "Be curious, not judgmental." And I like that. So I get back in my car, and I'm driving to work, and all of a sudden, it hits me. All them fellas used to belittle me. Not a single one of them were curious. They thought they had everything all figured out, and so they judged everything, and they judged everyone. And I realized that they're underestimating me. Who I was had nothing to do with it. Because if they were curious, they would ask questions. Questions like, have you played a lot of darts, Ted? Which I would have answered, yes, sir. every Sunday afternoon at a sports bar with my father from age 10 until I was 16 when he passed away. Barbecue sauce. Good game, Ruby. You are very lovely.
I love that scene. Be curious, not judgmental. So we showed a part of our mission statement before. We are an Episcopal church walking with a revolutionary Jesus. The next line is loving without judgment. That actually came from one of the spiritual values of Thistle Farms. And it says at All Saints Church, we love before anything else. I have a prayer list I've told you all about that I pray every day, and one of them, part of my prayer list is for people that I'm in conflict with. And it reminds me to ask God to love them through me, and it reminds me to be curious about them and hope that they're curious about me. When we love first, we care about each other, and when we care about each other, we are curious about each other. And we live these values by continuing to learn about each other and learning about the world. There's a great line in the musical 1776 where one of the delegates, who's sort of always drunk, is the last vote to decide whether we'll look at independence, whether the Continental Congress will do that. And he said, I've never seen, smelled, or tasted something that's so scary it can't even be talked about. And he said, hell yes, I vote yes for debate. And that's where I hope that we are, and I think it's where we are at our best, is we're curious about each other. And so I'm not sure there is a more important message or maxim right now than be curious, not judgmental. We are more polarized in this country than any time since the Civil War, and the antidote to polarization is curiosity and compassion. And so when we have an issue that divides us, I don't know, say applause in church, using different languages in liturgy, if we can approach that not with this is right, this is wrong, I love this, I hate this, but as we realize we have different opinions, can you say, tell me what this means to you? Tell me, help me understand why you love this. Tell me why you understand why this drives you absolutely bananas. What part of your story and your humanity does this intersect with? Because if we're going to be the beloved community, you can't be that and all agree on everything. Because that would just be a monolithic community. But what we can, and I don't even want that. What a boring community this would be if we all agreed on everything. And believe me, we are in no danger of becoming that. But what I want us to be, continue to be, because it's who we are at our best, is as we disagree, to look each other in the eye and say, oh, tell me more. Tell me more, and let me show you my heart too. And so we have our four core values, who Jesus is for us: radical inclusion, courageous justice, joyful spirituality, ethical stewardship. We have the three guiding texts of be reconciling and reconciled, hold the tension between the long arc of the moral universe and the need for immediate justice. And Ted Lasso reminds us, be curious and not judgmental. So what are we going to do with these? Well, this is where we really get ready to rock and roll. For a lot of last year, we went through a strategic direction process, and Tony Jackson, I want to thank you so much for your leadership on that process. And it generated 3 North Star goals that we are charting our course toward for the next 3 to 5 years. And once we establish these, I'm going to go through them in just a minute. And we had a lot of congregational process. This isn't something that the Vestry thought up in the shower. This is something that we came together with and discerned as a community. But the first thing we decided we needed to do before we started strategic planning for this is we said, well, we need to determine the resources we have to put towards these. And so, chaired by Blaine Cavanaugh, and Blaine, thank you for your work on this, and it continues. We formed a group called the Economic Sustainability Task Force. And among other things, what it came together to do is to address how we deal with about a $500,000 structural deficit. And by structural deficit, it means it's fairly persistent. And in 2023, we were able to plug that with government COVID money, and we don't have that for 2024 or 25 or ongoing in the future. And so what are we going to do about that? We're going to discern areas to invest in that will enable us to achieve those goals, and then find a sustainable operating level from which we can continue to grow. And as we have that sort of 3 years to 5 years in mind, then we can say, okay, now we can strategic plan for that. And so we put together that team. They've been doing that work. That work is still in progress, as is the 2024 budget. We've instituted quarterly financial town hall meetings to keep you updated on that process. Our controller, Aaron Sacco-Pineda, is going to give us a financial report later on in this meeting. We don't have a budget yet. We're still wrestling with it. And the reason we don't have a budget yet is we want to do this right. And we're taking the time to do it right, and to really say not just how we can have something that is going to stand alone this year and it's done, but how do we know that we're on a track over the next 3 years, over the next 5 years, that's going to keep us steady and growing. And so here are the 3 goals. And I get that's too much text for a PowerPoint, but I wanted to put it on there, and this will be available online. And the key words that you're going to see are belonging, activism, and sanctuary. And the first one is belonging. And that's to accelerate All Saints becoming a beloved community of belonging. I love that word, belonging. And I think there was a lot of conversation about this, where the word inclusion can mean for some people, well, there's one sort of norm, and everyone can be included into it, but you've got to kind of shift yourself and change yourself to be like that. Welcome has more of a sense of whoever you are and wherever you find yourself. You are welcome here. There's a place for you here. And so this is the language, and Tony, you're responsible for so much of this beautiful language. Embracing and going beyond radical inclusion, we seek to transition to a community of equals in authentic relationship, connected across difference, freed from the structures of oppression, each with an equally respected voice and opportunity to contribute to All Saints culture. To do this, we each have interior work to do in order to discover, celebrate, and transcend the differences that exist between us. Our work as individuals and in relationship with each other to become a beloved community of belonging will build on the seminal work of the Racial Justice Advisory Board and Racial Justice Ministry. I remember during Pride Month last year, we had a great forum here, and I think it was either Thomas or Diaz or Jonathan Quinn who said what they love about All Saints is this is the place where you don't have to tone it down. And that's where we want to be, not just, oh yeah, you're tolerated here, but we want you to be fully who you are when you're here. You know, I love that at Larry Gonzalez's memorial service, we sang show tunes. Why? Because that's who Larry was and that's who Larry is. And we didn't think for a second, oh no, well we can't, that's not appropriate in the church. Because you know what? It was love, and love is always appropriate in church. Everyone is embraced for who they are and who they're becoming. Now, this is long, slow, wonderful work. The primary task of this, again, is deep listening. In an era of objectification, it is being adamant about seeing the beautiful humanity in each person, especially those who are most different from us. And we've got the vocabulary for it. It's what we say every Sunday. It's God dwells in you. It's just taking that and running with it and living it in every aspect of our life. And I got to tell you, our youth are going to be some of our best guides in this. They're growing up in a very different world than those of us who are older did. My hunch is that we are all struggling right now, and that we don't talk about it much. I go to youth group on Wednesday night, and they are having the open, courageous, and vulnerable conversations that we all need to have. These conversations are the pathway not just to healing, but to thriving. And so this is an area where we need to not just sort of, well, bring the youth along. No, the youth are going to lead us through this. And we need to be able to listen to them and also follow their leadership. And that means investing in all of the things that nurture that part of our community. And so one of the things I will say is I encourage you to sign up and volunteer on Wednesday nights for CYF. because not just because we need people, which we do, but because it will be an amazing part of your spiritual journey. Second goal is activism, which again is a huge part of our history here at All Saints Church. But what we're talking about here is we've got the impulse for activism. There's no worry about that. What we need to do is strengthen our capacity and infrastructure for this. And a lot of that is communications. And we are blessed with Keith Holman, oh my goodness, to have an artist like Keith, who is our Director of Communications. But it can't just be Keith. We have a lot of work to do, both on communicating within the congregation and getting our message out. I'm kind of tired of All Saints increasingly being the best kept secret in Pasadena. We didn't used to be that way. And we've got work to do, and yet we can do this work of getting our message out. A fix is needed to improve everyone's access to information and to provide the groundwork to memorialize the impact of our activism. When things are going on, y'all need to know that they're going on. And we need to recognize that if you are my kid's age or younger, you never read your emails. We have to find whole new ways of communicating with each other. And we need to make sure that we're equipped for transformative action, not in models that were great in 1990, but in models that will be fantastic in 2030. And we're working on that right now. We are looking at new database systems that are going to enable new opportunities, both for communications and giving. You need to know that more than half of our worship participants now participate online. And we're already in conversation. We spent a good amount of time in our liturgy meeting this past week talking about how do we grow into a church that doesn't just gather community locally, but nationally and even globally. And how can we have that be a really engaging experience and provide more and more ways for connection and care and effective activism in each of these concentric circles. I had some of you saw Andy Malloy and Debbie Gassler back here, longtime parishioners who now live in New Jersey, and they go to church there, but they watch All Saints. They participate in worship online every Sunday, and they're active, pledging members of this community, and we want to keep growing that. This church has been in the past and can be in new ways in the future truly a global church. And we have the capacity to do that. We just need to lean into that. And so that's our second goal. And then the third goal, and Lonnie and Phil are going to talk about this a little more in some work that's already happening, is sanctuary. And that's to initiate a bold, comprehensive campus revitalization process. We have, you've heard us say it before, we have more than $10 million in deferred maintenance in these buildings. We have a trailer that was supposed to last 3 years, 30 years ago. We have Scott Hall, which I think they made the old Tom Hanks, Shelley Long movie, The Money Pit, was inspired by Scott Hall. It's just, we have these things that once served us but don't serve us anymore, and yet we also have buildings that still serve us incredibly well, but we just haven't cared for them the way they needed to, and those bills are coming due. And the work that Paces did has not been lost. It is still there. And we need to figure out where God is calling us with these facilities. And that's going to be an all-hands-on-deck effort. One of the things that we will continue to talk about as we talk about finances, and we talked about it at the financial town hall meeting, is we don't have an endowment commensurate with the size of this church. And that's what a lot of churches use. Income from endowments, not just to support the budget, but to support the buildings. And we don't have that. And we've spent down much, if not most, of our funds that we had in reserve to do the work that Lonnie and Phil are going to tell you about. And it was necessary, and it has been done incredibly well. But if we're going to be here, and we are, for the next 30, 50, 100 years, the time is now to care for these buildings, and also to set up structures so that 30, 40 years from now, our successors aren't having the same conversations. That we are actually looking at how do we sustain these buildings as they age, and not just wait till things break. Again, this has already started with the Learning Center, the Regus roof and rectory office building repairs. And then we're also looking at new things. We have 2 task forces that I've called together this year. One is just beginning to explore the possibility. Please do not leave here and said, the rector said we're absolutely doing this. Explore the possibility of, could we put affordable housing on our parking lot? And have that be a part of who we are and engage our mission, but also maybe do it in a way that brings some income into the church. We own a beautiful home that the rector lives in, and we have a task force that's coming together to say this is an asset of All Saints Church. What is the best use of this asset for the present and future of the church? Maybe it's holding on to it and investing it. Maybe it's selling it. Maybe it's, sort of any number of creative possibilities. And so this is a year we're already starting to look at the physical plant of All Saints Church. What has it been and what can it be in the future? And so we have those 3 values of belonging, those 3 goals of belonging, activism, and sanctuary. We have our goals of radical inclusion, courageous justice, joyful spirituality, and ethical stewardship. And then we have sort of the operating principles of reconciliation and holding that tension between the arc of the moral universe being long and the demand for immediate justice, and of course, the opportunity to be curious and not judgmental. And we need 3 things from everyone here and from everyone watching online. And the first is to pray. Our pastoral care team is coming up with an election year toolkit, because part of what we realize is as we get closer to the election, the noise gets louder and louder. And we need to, I think especially this year, root ourselves in prayer. There's lots of different ways to do that. We have contemplative prayer services Monday, Tuesday night, Tuesday, Wednesday night. Stacy Kennelly does an amazing online spiritual grounding exercise on Wednesday mornings. We need to spend time in prayer, and prayer means many different things for many different people. But I also encourage you, pray for the life of this church. Pray and listen to that still small voice of God and what you're hearing. Pray for each other, particularly those you might find yourself in conflict with. Pray. Second thing is give. You're going to hear a giving report in a little bit. We're about 84% to our goal of $3 million, and I'll sort of tell you more about that. This is the time to invest in All Saints Church. So if you have pledged, thank you, thank you. If you haven't, this is the time to do it. You got to do it now. And that's everyone online, anywhere in the world. We want you to be a part of this community. You are a part of this community. Please pledge, give, and support this. If you've already pledged, maybe you can pledge and give a little more, either in a special gift or increasing your pledge. This is the time to invest. We are not a poor church by any means. And yet to continue the work that we have done to continue to thrive as a community, we need these resources. And so thank you for how you provided them. Also, this is the time to really, really invest in All Saints Church. And then the final thing is to invite. And that is, we're growing this church. You're going to see in a little bit, Walter Little did a nice sort of skew of our attendance over the last 6 months, and it's skewing up. But we've just scratched the surface of our potential. And the number one way to grow a community is personal invitation. And it can be church, but then maybe a lot of people aren't interested in going to a worship service. Bring someone to the forum on women's ministry in the church next week. Bring someone to Easter Sunday services. In April, we're having some amazing educational opportunities. On April 7th, David Myers and Hussein Ibish will be here. David is the head of Jewish Studies at UCLA, and Hussein is Palestinian who's a member of the fellow at the Arab States Institute. And they're going to be doing a deep dive into Israel and Palestine. Our dear friend Ken Chasen, who's the rabbi at Leo Beck, will be here. to give a progressive Jewish view in a forum of what's happening. We have a group called We Are All Gaza coming in here. We have Brad Whitford hosting a forum in an evening in May for Americans United for the separation of church and state, to talk about how we can participate in stemming the tide of Christian nationalism. We've got Anne Lamott and Valerie Bertinelli here back-to-back nights doing book groups in book events for Romans in April. There's so many things to invite people into. Just make sure you're inviting. Anytime you think about something you think this is cool, think about someone you can bring with you. As we move through the year, we're going to have some wonderful new leadership. Not just the Vestry and diocesan reps you're about to elect. We're going to have a new senior warden in Al Hughes. You're going to hear from Al in a minute. You're also going to have a new junior warden and treasurer. I misspoke last time when I said I could announce those. Sorry, I'm going to keep you in suspenders a little while longer. They actually have to be approved by Vestry, and Vestry meets Tuesday, so you'll be hearing who these are. We have two great candidates. You're going to be so thrilled, and those will be voted on by Vestry on Tuesday. She's not in the room, but please, when you see her, our outgoing treasurer, Karen Meyer, did just an absolutely amazing job. So please thank Karen. I stopped making this a command performance for the staff because the staff works so hard. But if you're on staff, you're just in the room, can you stand up? Melissa, Keith's behind the camera, Jenny, Sally, Samantha, Chase, Alfredo, Thomas, and so many, many more. Just thank you. We have an amazing staff. And then finally, our wardens this year have just been phenomenal. Please keep Risa in your prayers. Risa's going to be fine, but Risa came back. She and Susan were at the same wedding in Puerto Vallarta, and it became this super spreader event, and they got really sick, and that's why Susan wasn't able to preach, and Risa's still recovering from it. They're going to be fine, but please give them your prayers. This has not been an easy year to be a warden, and Risa has done just an amazing job of leadership, and Kathy, I am so grateful for you. And please, she is here, so can we thank Kathy Kegg, our junior warden, for just an amazing job. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Kathy, and you're going to do a recognition of outgoing Vestry. No. You're doing your remarks first? Okay, well then I'll go to keep it on pray, give, invite.
Hi everyone. You're going to get sick of me today because I have three speaking parts. So good afternoon. So nice to see you all. It's a pleasure for me to be with you today. As I complete my term as your junior warden, I just want to thank you for your support, your help, and your trust in me and this wonderful place. I've been a member here for 32 years and have been in positions of leadership a good deal of that time. I will say this year was one of the toughest. We struggled with budget issues, declining attendance and pledges, and an aging campus, as our rector just shared with us. We dug in and got to work, and the work continues. Your finance committee expects a realistic budget that exists in the context of a multi-year operating plan. We're getting there. Sarah Nolan, our new director of Giving, Development, and Economic Justice, hit the ground running. She and her team, mostly volunteers, got the deposit postings up to date, assessed giving trends, put time and energy into meeting all of us. A group of All Saints members had deep and helpful conversations with people who no longer attend All Saints. We are figuring out how to address what we learned. Because of the generosity of so many before us, we were able to address some of the most pressing problems of our buildings. We have no more indoor waterfalls. Each and every one of us is a unique gift. What are you going to do with your uniqueness? Let's acknowledge each other's pace. Let's not leave anyone behind. Let's check in with those that struggle. Let's not ignore or exclude anyone who doesn't want to participate. Let's love everyone for exactly who they are today. How can we help you participate? How do we listen and acknowledge our differences without excluding different opinions? How do you bring your uniqueness to the greater community? We are moving forward. You are about to meet the incredible group of people who will be joining the vestry pending your approval. We will gather as a full group with clergy and staff next month to plan our next steps and incorporate long-term planning. All this in the context of our core values of radical inclusion, courageous justice, ethical stewardship, and joyful spirituality. Let's continue the journey. Thank you. I'm back. I'm so used to just yelling that how I manage a microphone is a little dicey. So the retiring class, most of whom are here. The retiring class of 2024 started their service at the peak of COVID, a challenge they rose to with grace and determination. And as a governing board, that's no easy feat. I'd like to give just a peek of each of them. Mason Bauman, our youth member, one of our youth members. I'm so sorry. Our youth members have always been a true gift. Mason is no exception. He's graduating from high school this year, and beyond his responsibilities at school and home, he stepped up to the responsibilities at church. He's been an active leader in youth group and the vestry. He has also participated as an acolyte and a choir member. God bless you on this next phase of your journey, and please don't be a stranger. Hannah Earnshaw, who is in the house, has been a champion of telling the whole story, the history of the land our church sits on. Hannah was involved in the relaunching of the LGBTQ ministry, was an active member of both Congregational Development Committee and the Strategic Direction Committee. They have continued to be an active member of the Canterbury Choir. Thank you for all you do and the richness you brought to Vestry. Thank you. Julianne Hines is in the house. Served 1 year as your junior warden and the following year as your senior warden. She was instrumental in the reorganizing of the AAPI ministry. Julianne was part of the Strategic Direction Committee and the Warden's Task Force. She's a member of the Peace and Justice Committee and Finance Committee. She also was a faith partner with the CYF Seekers. We are so grateful for your commitment and hard work. Thank you. Norwita Milborn. Just wait. Norwita has contributed countless hours to All Saints Church, which only expanded with her time on Vestry. Norwita was and remains very active on the Racial Justice Advisory Board that we refer to as RJAB. From steering committee to working group to co-chairing, Norwita has done it all. Other committee work includes Peace and Justice, Celebrations, and Children, Youth, and Family. Additionally, she facilitated the 91107 dinner group, helped serve food to the unhoused, and has participated in several Lenten book groups. Thank you for all you do, and know that we are not going to let you get very far. Rosemary Muniz. I'm sure you all recognize and know Rosemary from her role as one of our dedicated vergers. That's just the tip of the iceberg. Rosemary has worked on congregational development and was active in the Transformational Journey Committee. She was called to work on the Immigration Task Force and is an ever-present greeter. Her thoughtful presence was always a gift. Thank goodness you continue to be part of this community. Thank you, Rosemary. Jonathan Quinn, who let me know this morning that he was not going to be able to be with us. Jonathan finished an unexpired term. They were very involved in the LGBTQ ministry, gave a brilliant sermon on Pride Sunday, telling the whole story, organized parish events, and led small groups. After completing their initial discernment process, the vestry approved them to take the next step toward holy orders. Jonathan was a gift to me personally to be more mindful of the impact of language. And they were never shy about asking the hard questions. If you see Jonathan on campus, please say thank you to him. He's a blessing, and I wish him blessings on his continued journey. And this is the one that's going to be really hard for me. Last but not least, our dear, dear Risa, who, as you heard, is not feeling well these days, so she isn't with us. I hope she's streaming. Your senior warden, the incomparable Risa Worthy Dreamer. Risa broke the mold when she took the reins of senior warden. Not only did she always make sure everything was on track for our monthly vestry meetings, including that we were fed, Risa always presented as caring and attentive. She helped create and push the Centennial Celebration. She is a member of the Finance Committee, the Affordable Housing Task Force, and working towards building a relationship with St. Barnabas. And that's just what she does on Monday. Additionally, she's a member of the Diocesan Commission on Ministry, and there is so much more. Let's just say the Risa touch is all over this campus. Risa has a quiet determination to include the theological underpinnings of her faith in everything she does. She leads with love and deep listening in her tireless pursuit of a beloved community that is truly multicultural. There are no words that truly capture this amazing woman, and I am grateful for all that she taught me. And that's our retiring class.
Well, then who's going to take their space, Kathy?
I have an app for that. Okay, here we go. I promise this is the last. For me. The Vestry Nominating Committee has selected an outstanding slate of candidates for election today. Each one of these candidates brings excellent skills and experience and will be an asset to the leadership of All Saints Church. The nominees are, it's Oscar night. There's a difference here, though. All our nominees are going to win. Barbara Andre Dobransky. I am so sorry. Did I say that right? Okay. Connie Chung, Chris Foltz, Cruz Jackson, Tony Jackson, no relation, Gloria Pitzer, and Billy Rayner. I want to thank the members of the nominating committee that helped bring this slate together, which included the retiring class, the people were just named, and Christine Hartman, Nina Shearer, Elizabeth Tatum, and Mike Kimmon, and Sally Howard, and Alfredo. Sorry, Alfredo. And Chase. What am I going to do? Barbara Andre Dobransky has been at All Saints for 13 years, along with her husband Tom and their children Estella and Jesse. Barbara is Deputy Director, Riverside County Executive Office, Office of Service Integration, and was in leadership and professional and volunteer multi-sector family wellness and support for LA County from 2000 to 2020. She's been on All Saints Racial Justice Advisory Board since 2017 and was co-chair from fall 2021 to spring of 23. Barbara was active in the Telling the Whole Story, the Land Committee from 2022 to 23, and was an acolyte coordinator. Barbara is excited to be involved in solutions that honor All Saints principles and that are innovative and ambitious, and is particularly interested in how systems, societal, organizational, cultural, can seed optimal conditions for this beloved community in which we can all find purpose as both givers and receivers of compassion, practical support, and accountability to each other. She also looks forward to the ongoing examination of our impact as an institution. Connie Chung, who is here, has been at All Saints for 4 years, and she's particularly special because she and I share a birthday. I've never had somebody that shared my birthday before. With Friends, Connie started and currently co-leads the 40s, 50s and Friends Ministry and the Asian American Pacific Islander Ministry. She's a member of the steering committee of the Foster Care Project and a former facilitator for the Getting Connected class. She has also served on the advisory board of several local, national, and global youth development and education organizations. Connie is former associate director of the Harvard Global Education Initiative, Innovation Initiative, and a former Foster America Fellow. Raised in Arcadia, she joined All Saints just before the pandemic and has experienced All Saints to be a warm, loving, responsive, and inclusive community. She has found clergy, staff, and congregants to be gifted people who practice courage and vulnerability in the face of our shared challenge and opportunities. Thank you, Connie. Chris Foltz. No. Chris Foltz has been a member of All Saints since 1999 and attends church with her fiance, Craig Johnson. She is retired from Southern California Edison, where she worked as an HR business partner at All Saints. Chris has been a co-facilitator of the Vestry Personnel Committee, acted as co-leader of the Monday Night Grief and Loss Group, the Usher Ministry, and Pastoral Care. She has also been a new member leader, confirmation leader, small group leader. Chris is excited about joining the vestry to both support the rector and All Saints' inspiring mission. After all these years at All Saints, she considers the next 4 years to be a continuation of her service toward making All Saints a welcoming and rewarding community for all who walk onto our campus. Cruz Jackson has been nominated as our new youth member. He's a proud member of the Acolyte team and a frequent attendee of the church's youth group. He first started attending All Saints as an infant in 2008 when he was baptized by Ed Bacon. Currently, Cruz is in the 10th grade at LaSalle College Preparatory in Pasadena. He enjoys his school's theater and speech and debate programs, skills he'll need, and is an avid student of science and history. As a person of multi-ethnic heritage, Cruz holds great pride in the diversity present at All Saints. He believes that by encouraging diverse and varied viewpoints, the modern world can be changed in vastly beneficial ways. Tony Jackson. Tony Jackson has been coming to All Saints for 22 years with his wife Norwida and daughter Sarah. He is retired from being vice president and founding director of the Center for Global Education at Asia Society. Tony has previously served on Vestry and has been a member of the Rector Search Committee, co-chair of the Mission, Vision, and Values Committee, and chair of both the Reconciliation Committee and the Strategic Direction Committee. He has also served and is serving on CYF, Peace and Justice, Personnel, Giving, Finance, and Telling the Whole Story committees. Tony comes to All Saints to be in community with people who share the values and passions for making our world a more compassionate and just place. He is drawn to the challenge of fostering a truly beloved community of belonging at All Saints that stands as an example of the change we seek in the world. Amid the daunting cultural and financial pressures we face, his hope is that the Vestry, in collaboration with staff, will be able to make the changes needed to achieve that goal and to sustain the church we love long into the future. Thank you, Tony. Gloria Pitzer has been a member of All Saints for 60 years. I think Cruz is going to try to beat that record there. I'm just saying, there's an up-and-comer. Attending with her husband Don, and when he was a child, her son Benjamin. She has sung in the choir for 55 years, but who's counting, and has 5 prior terms on Vestry and 6 terms as either junior or senior warden. She has chaired finance, stewardship, rector search, capital finance committee. She's also an attorney. Gloria has served on the boards of Pasadena Community Foundation, Union Station, Pasadena City College Foundation, Pasadena Bar Association, and the University Club. All Saints for decades has served as a leader in the diocese, wider church, and our community in the struggle for peace, justice, and inclusion. Gloria looks forward to being a small part of this impactful work as we face an increasingly divisive world. Thank you, Gloria. And our last candidate, only because her last name starts with an R, is Billy Rayner. Has been at All Saints for about a year and a half. She works at Installer 3, a Bay alarm, and installs burglar alarms and various security devices. She also hosts a podcast called the Cross Yaz podcast. Did I say that right? Or YAAS? Okay, Cross Yaz. Got it. Thank you. Where she chats with transgender individuals, typically pre or early transition. At All Saints, Billy has facilitated the Getting Connected class twice and has co-facilitated the LGBTQ+ Tuesday group since June of 23. Billy loves the inclusion and belonging she feels at All Saints, and the thing she loves doing most at All Saints is creating a warm, welcoming space where people can open up and find their own sense of community. Thank you, Billy. And I have one more person I'd like to introduce to you who's not here but was appointed to fill an unfilled term. So he joined us about 2 months ago. His name is Bernard Garcia, that many of you may know, and his wife Jillian have been at All Saints for 2 years. Despite being formed in more evangelical contexts, they were drawn to All Saints for its core values of radical inclusion, courageous justice, and dedication to following the path of the revolutionary Jesus. Bernard appreciates how All Saints not only cultivates spiritual formation, but also provides space for the prophetic, bringing the gap between activism and the church. He is a former nuclear engineer at Southern California Edison, senior analyst at International Justice Mission, a Master of Divinity candidate at Fuller Theological Seminary, a fellow at the Center for Asian American Theology and Ministry, and a former pastor at C3 Church in Metro Manila. He currently serves as a co-leader for the Asian American Pacific Islander Ministry at All Saints and as a member of the 2030s Ministry. Bernard hopes to contribute to All Saints' vision of truly becoming a beloved community where all people are welcome and embraced in the fullness of who they are. This is your slate for the 2024 election. I would like to place those names in nomination, and I need a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Having a overwhelming majority, welcome to Vestry.
Thank you. Thank you. Great work. The fun is just getting started. Sally, you wanted to come up here, and we wanted you to share just a couple of the things that are going on with sort of structure and intentional culture for you. Oh, diocesan reps. Here, you want me just to do that real quick? Okay. So we have representatives to diocesan convention. These are a one-year term. Donnie Heinlam, Randy Heinlam, Risa Worthy-Deemer, Wendy Edwards, Terry Knowles, Thomas Diaz, and Al Hughes. These people are going to go to and represent us at diocesan convention. Can someone put those names in nomination, please? Is there a second? All in favor? Opposed? If you were opposed, you get to do it. Okay, so moved. Congratulations to our diocesan convention reps. And here's Sally.
Do we need a seventh inning stretch? Hopefully we're at the seventh inning. So I wanted to talk with you briefly just to, whoops, I gotta go back. There we go. Some progress we have made in organizational structure here at All Saints Church. We have been very busy and active in rebuilding after our last staff restructuring. And we found that it's also been an opportunity to update to best current practices. So we are taking advantage of that opportunity. And part of that has been to establish an internal financial accountability team. And this came out of actually a larger structure, the financial accountability structure that was endorsed by the Finance Committee in April of '23. And part of that larger financial accountability structure was to make an internal financial accountability team. And that team includes Aaron Seco Pineda, our controller, our former treasurer, Karen Meyer, Sarah Nolan, the director of giving, I'm giving the short title, and Samantha Kramer, our HR director. And I have worked as a team facilitator with that. And that is a weekly meeting where we make sure that we are coordinating all of those different facets of the structure underneath All Saints. And then on a monthly basis, we have a larger team that is led by the rector. We also include our director of IT, our bookkeeper, occasionally the administrative assistants that are working with us, just to make sure that we have smooth and top quality ongoing financial accountability within the church. And we have worked on things from credit card policies of staff all the way to, again, these producing now regular financial statements. Quarterly town halls are also a part of that. Our staffing structure, this should be aligning. We are aligning already our staffing structure with the North Star goals of belonging, activism, and sanctuary. And we work closely with our Vestry Personnel Committee that is co-led by Chris Foltz and Trula Worthy-Deemer. Clayton, thank you. I'm going back to, thank you, Clayton. I'm going back to Risa. That's right. And we are also moving, we have operated for quite a while with a few supervisors that supervise all staff, and we are moving that towards a broader base of supervisors. and we'll be providing training for our new supervisors. So we have the opportunity to put in place for the first time ever at All Saints annual, at least on record that we know of, that we can dig out, annual reviews that will also have a quarterly component. So we're very happy about that, and that work is proceeding well. And that also, again, includes the supervisors. And lastly, you have this list of activities. This came out of a question, I think, from one of our vestry members, like what actually is going on at All Saints Church. So this is actually what is going on at All Saints Church. As we have emerged from COVID, and it's been listed by areas. Beloved Community is a combination of those working in pastoral care and also congregational development, because there's a lot of crossover between those. And you can see we also have all the ministry leaders there are probably some other people on the list that could be listed as professional volunteers, like Nancy Necker, because they are working, pretty much full-time, and they're just not involved in the staff structure, but certainly Erica Tamlin, Gloria Antal could go down a list of a number of people that are applying those skills. Thank you, and Nina in the back row there. Thank you. And I will not take our time. We would be here for a very long time if I went through all those, but that's there for you to look at and see. It was amazing to me to put it together, all the ministries that are going on. And I want to highlight that there is a lot of staff congregational collaboration that's gone on in this church for years. And we are continuing to develop that and think about how that aligns with strategic direction. Again, I could be here for a long time telling you all of those different collaborations. And just briefly, I wanted to talk about something else that we've been doing this year, which is intentional culture. And you will be hearing more about this, but there is this amazing alignment in business research, for-profit as well as nonprofit research, that one of the keys to a thriving organization is to be intentional about the culture that we have and the culture that we want. And research does show that is a key factor in thriving organizations across almost all dimensions. So we have begun that work in staff with a retreat, and we'll continue that work where we are looking at what kind of culture do we have and what kind of culture do we want to be as a staff. And we are also doing some of that work. Thank you to the leadership of Kathy Kegg. In our Vestry retreat, we will be doing some intentional culture work where we are thinking about what culture we have again and what do we dream and want to live into. And that's it for me.
Okay, we're going to move now to a finance report, and please welcome Erin Sacco-Pineda. Erin, you are on camera now. Erin is our controller. And first of all, I just want to say thank you so much to Erin for just the amazing work that you have done on finances here. Just incredible. So can you kind of give us a snapshot report, Erin?
I can, Mike. Thank you so much. Thank you guys for understanding my presence on Zoom. I'm zooming in from San Diego, not too far, but I appreciate having the opportunity to do it this way this weekend. So I'm going to bring up for you just one slide. Hopefully it visible for everybody, to talk about primarily the 2023 financial results. I do want to highlight, however, that 2021 and 2022 are still being presented as unaudited, and I just want to touch on that point briefly. We have been using at All Saints the same auditor for the better part of 20 years, I want to say, and so with all of the transitions of personnel both in giving and accounting over 2021 and 2022, the finance team agreed it wasn't the right time to change auditors, so we did engage the same auditor to do the audits for those years as we got the financial reporting caught up. Unfortunately, as I have dug into the financial results for those years and the financial documentation, it seemed to me that there was a possibility we would not have sufficient documentation to support audit sampling at the level that we would like. So Mike, Sally, Karen Meyer agreed with me that we could ask the CPA to step down from a full audit to a financial review, which is just one level down in the scope of work that a independent CPA firm will do for clients. At that point, our CPA actually decided to withdraw from the engagement. This happened last fall, in the fall of 2023. So we have engaged another CPA firm to complete financial reviews for 2021 and 2022, and we believe the draft reports on that are imminent. So we will have that for Finance Committee to review, and then subsequently Vestry in the next 30 days. So that's what's going on for 2021 and 22, and as soon as that is finalized, we'll have that posted on the website. For 2023, we ended the year, we were chewing our fingernails for most of the year, I will admit, but we did end the year with an operating surplus of $110,000, and this is just in the operating fund. As Mike mentioned, a main reason why we were able to report as much operating income as we did is the third line down on your slide here, COVID-19 support. Over the last couple of years, we have been slowly using up the PPP funds that were received by All Saints in 2020. In 2023, I also was able to apply for All Saints to receive the employee retention tax credits. You may have heard those talked about. There have been commercials. There's been a lot of scams associated with those in the last year. I, as a CPA and the person who prepared the eligibility claim, will assert that that All Saints definitely was eligible for those, and so we were able to apply for them and receive them in 2023. The employee retention tax credits were $590,000. And that essentially allowed us to have a balanced budget and offset our increasing expenses in 2023. Other income on this graph, just so you know, because that's such a vague title, is primarily made up of parking income and building use income. Parking income in 2023 recovered to almost pre-COVID levels. And so parking and building use amounted to almost $200,000 in 2023. So in those areas, we were able to see increases in our operating income. However, as Mike spoke of, 2023 is the last year we had any money available to us from the federal COVID support program, COVID-19 recovery programs. And so we are looking at a significant deficit budget for 2024 and a 3 to 5 year strategic plan to move not only out of deficit spending, but into renewed commitment to All Saints core values. On the expense side, I will just highlight, we do see an increase of expenses, but again, a surplus budget means that we had more income than expenses. The increase from 2022 to 2023 was about 5% increase in expenses, and generally speaking, I would identify the reason for that as a return from a full year's return from the shutdown and doing much more in-person activities, and so re-engaging the community in person and the use of the facilities in person, as I'm sure you all have experienced, especially those of you on site here today. In addition to that, we all know that we have been experiencing inflationary pressures, and so of course the church experiences those as well. The last thing I want to highlight is just that the operating income and expenses that are reported here do not reflect the entirety of All Saints' financial activity. We have about 45 non-operating funds that have a variety of programmatic and ministry activities. That also includes our endowments and our long-term maintenance program. So none of that is reflected in the operating results. In terms of our endowments, we did have endowment investment losses in 2022, most of which were recovered in 2023 by market recovery. And we spent about $2.4 million on the long-term maintenance programs, which Mike indicated Lonnie and Phil will talk about it in a moment. And we also had $1.1 million in bequest income, and that had primarily went into quasi-endowment as that's the policy, and some of that was used as well to offset the long-term maintenance project costs. I hope I didn't speak too fast.
No, you were great. Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And then I need to do this. Want to just, so we can go back to this. View. Real quick, and I know we're running longer than we wanted to, and we definitely will have time for questions. Wanted to just do a brief bit about giving. It's super important. Sarah Nolan is taking some really well-deserved time off right now, so she gave us this update. Where we are right now is we're 84% of the way to the goal of 3 million, a little more than 2.5 million. That represents 523 households. 160 households have increased their pledges. That's really wonderful. That total is 179,000. We have 227,000 in pledges from new and returning household, 115 households. That's an increase of 227. We have 63 households that have decreased pledges. That's for 192,000. And then here's the big one. We have 176 households who have yet not pledged, and last year that was $438,137. And so we need those pledges to come in. In fact, if we get all those pledges in and people just up just a smidge from last year, we're going to hit our goal. So please, 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 if you haven't pledged yet, please pledge. And deeply appreciative to those who have. We are revamping our rental contracts for our parking income. The filming income is starting to come back. We're excited about that. And the parking income is actually returning to pre-COVID levels, which is something we weren't sure that it did. And then we're also identifying grants and community partnerships that we can work that will help with income. And then I wanted to sort of tell you, we asked, Keith does a great job charting attendance both online and in person, and wanted to sort of show this is the last 6 months of our Sunday morning attendance trend. And you can see it is skewing upward. What you'll also notice, and this will be available on the website, is as we are having more people come physically into church, we're growing in terms of our streaming audience a great deal. And in fact, the trend is actually a little better than this. If you see where that dip is Christmas Eve, which was Advent 4. And I was amazed actually, we got 240 people in church for Advent 4 when that was on Christmas Eve. So that doesn't count any of our Christmas services. And then the Sunday after that, which is always a low attendance Sunday, was our Christmas Carol Sing. And so we're doing well, and we can do better. And it really is about inviting people to come into this community. So we're growing, and we need everyone's help to continue to grow. And now I want to turn it over to Lonnie, who's going to, you and Phil are going to tell us a little bit about what we've got going on with our buildings.
This is the real exciting part here. We're talking about money, and we've got a tremendous amount of deferred maintenance. But what we have been doing for the last year and a half is we've focused on restoration work and replacing of operating systems that are outdated. We've had consultants working with us from the very start. We have a roofing and waterproofing consultant that's been with us for the last 4 or 5 years that writes specifications on how we get this stuff repaired. We have structural engineer that we had to sign up for some of our structural work that was done. We have a general contractor working with us that's a historic restoration contractor. He's got an environmental protection certificate that he can help us with the asbestos that we have found in the rectory. We are also very fortunate in the latter part of 2022 that we have a very talented civil engineer from Caltech, Phil Necker, on our committee. So believe me, it's been a tremendous amount of help. We also have Veronica and Verna. We meet every week and to review what the prior week's access or work was in progress and to what we project into the future for the future week. And that is very important about the staff and function of the church, that we're not bringing in concrete trucks when they have to use the parking lot for something else. So our first project in restoration was the north transept window. That started in January of 2023 and lasted for 7 months. So Judson Glass has been a great company to work with, but I'm sure that ended up costing them far more than what they gave us for a price for that. But anyway, we're very grateful they didn't come back and ask us for an extra money. We've repaired all the skylights in Regas, and that's one thing. My wife and I have been around this church for, I think, 22, 23 years. I've never seen daylight through that skylight that we have up in the Learning Center. We have that ability now. One of our major projects was the restoration of the windows on the east side of this building. And if you look at these windows and you see all those panes of glass have all been removed. Rust has been taken out of it. It's been primed and they've put it back together. That's been 13, I think the fellow that did the job was 1,340 of those windows that they had to repair. We relocated the fire sprinkler system that's over this building, over the Regas building. And I would think that probably when this building was rebuilt after the fire they had, somebody didn't think they would aesthetically look good inside the building, so they had them on top, and that's where we had all these holes punched in the ceiling that we had to maintain. It aged out. We couldn't afford to operate it any further, but that's installed now. We put new flooring in the center, painted it, add cabinets, restored that whole area to where it's like it's brand new up there. The rectory building, where you can get a good idea of what they're doing on these casement windows because you can get a close-up look at it. We're doing the same thing that we did on the east wall of this building, and it will also be re-roofed, in the next couple months, I think. Yeah, that they're going to be planning on that. There's been repair to a driveway electrical vault where we had to add a sump. These projects were all started with a budget of a little over $1.3 million by the vestry. As we got into it and discovered these other items, we had to up that request for another $1.3 million. So we have $3,091,459 approved by vestry that we're spending that we will not go over. So, Phil, you want to add anything to that?
That's it. As usual, Lonnie does the leadership, I do the technical support. So. Just some photos to show you kind of before and after real quick. That's what our learning center used to look like, with stained ceilings and a bucket brigade to catch the rain, and it looks like this now. And those examples of the cracks that we've been repairing in the windows, and those have been repaired. That's what the windows used to look like. You can see the missing putty and broken glass, and you know, that's what it looks like after repair. It's all pretty and painted and rust-free. And we had rusty pipes and rusty drain pipes, and a kind of a busted roof, and now we've replaced it with a brand new white roof that reflects heat and supports a very high efficiency air conditioner system. And that's the team that worked on it.
There really aren't enough words for thanks for both of you. Just thank you, thank you, thank you so much. From one Necker to the next, Nancy, do you want to talk about the centennial?
Yes.
Thank you. There you go.
Thank you. So it's great to be here. December of this year will be the 100th anniversary of worship in our beautiful sanctuary. So it's a great milestone. So I'm Nancy Necker, and I'm co-chairing, along with Risa Worthy-Deemer and Anina Minato in the back, the Centennial Celebration. There's a large team of volunteers, several of you are here today, working to bring these important stories of All Saints and a year-long celebration to you. So some of these stories that we're telling is telling the whole story, and thank you to Hannah again for telling the whole story of the land acknowledgement, and it's now on the website, so please take a look, it's wonderful. Another telling the whole story, headed by Chase, is the story of St. Barnabas, and that's our history of excluding African Americans from worship in our worship space, and that's an important story to tell, so thank you, Chase. So as we're telling these stories of ourselves, we're also celebrating. We're doing lots of celebrations, so hang on. We started this centennial journey on October 8th with Cornerstone Sunday. So that was a celebration of the commemoration of the laying of the cornerstone in October of 1923. We celebrated Cornerstone Sunday by making an enormous cornerstone box and many mini boxes of cornerstones, and I want to thank Mike Hernandez for his work on that. So we had a lot of fun with that. We had Cornerstone scavenger hunt thanks to Prescott Gadd, and Cornerstone cookies thanks to Parish Celebration. So it was a really great launch of Centennial Celebration. We also have a monthly newsletter that I hope you're all getting in your email, that those who are reading it, their emails. The Centennial Conversations highlights a specific parishioner at All Saints who's had a really impact on the life of the church. On December 24th, Christmas Eve at 5 p.m., we had another Centennial celebration. Which was the CYF Centennial Celebration, and it was the CYF reunion. And over 50 alums came and were blessed and enjoyed a really festive celebration on the lawn. So that was a fun event. So the party continues. We're going to continue commemorating our stories over the year and our celebrations. So there's three things I want you to mark your calendars for. The one is this weekend, the Philadelphia Living Screening on March 16th. It's a wonderful celebration of women's history here at All Saints too. Really fun event, May 17th, so please mark your calendar for that. We are going to have a blowout all-parish centennial dance party. 100 years of dance tunes, starting at 6:30 in the Learning Center, in our newly redone Learning Center. With a DJ, and we'll dance through the decades. So I want to see dances from all of you from all the decades. Keep an eye out for the details of that. And then our big blowout will be on September 15th, 2024, which is our homecoming celebration. It's a centennial celebration, a big birthday bash. We're going to invite all former clergy, former staff, former vestry, city officials, and some of our community and religious partners to participate with us. So Save the Date is coming out after Easter. Thank you. And I forgot, if you haven't picked it up yet, there's magnets and stickers with the Centennial logo on it, and they're at the welcome table. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And before we move to questions and conversation, I want to invite our new senior warden, our incoming senior warden, Al Hughes, here shown in his favorite environment with his dog. Al, just give us a glimpse of what you see happening in the future here. Good to see you.
Hello, All Saints. Before I start, I'd like to share a little bit of kind of the glorious silliness that happens, I think, at All Saints. I remember when this meeting first came up, we went through the different roles of the wardens, and I was told, oh, Al, you won't be saying anything because you're just coming in. We're just going to introduce you. And I was meeting with Mike on Thursday evening, and he started talking about, you can say this and you can say that, and I was a bit perplexed. I said, what's going on here? And I'm like, do you want me to say something? Well, of course. Tell them all about yourself. Tell them what you're going to do this year, and it'll just take a couple minutes. And I thought, heck, that's easy. I'll just have to follow your lead. Yes. I love you, Mike. So I'm going to give you the Cliff Notes version. This was without footnotes or anything. This is going to be short and sweet, and you can ask me later if you want more detail. How's that? I've been an Episcopalian for over 50 years. I was raised as a Presbyterian, Church of Scotland, and I served at Church of the Resurrection, Kew Gardens, New York, and Queens. I was on the vestry there. I was at St. Nicholas in Encino. I served on the vestry and junior warden there. And I've been fortunate to be able to go to All Saints full-time for the last 12 years. And I was here before that, but I was also in the restaurant industry. And if you haven't noticed, Sunday's a pretty daggone busy day. So I was a regional manager, so the times that I could come here during that time was when I went to one of my restaurants over here. So that was Montebello, Alhambra, Downey, or Lakewood. So I'd come to the 9 o'clock service, hightail on off to the restaurants, and do lunch. The other times I would be out of my church in Encino because I could go to the 8 o'clock service and I could get on to the rest of my region. That said, I still remember Mary Lee and I came and we actually heard George Regis's sermon, if you recall that one, the one that started our love affair with the IRS. And I thought, wow, and I was here at that time, but we were going sporadically because of what I told you. But I remember that whole process. Now that I'm retired, I'm able to be here, and I'm Coventry president. I serve on the finance committee, and my wife, Mary Lee, is on the Altar Guild, and she does all of your linens and presses them every Sunday, those linens that we use on the chalices. So, thank you. So, that's enough about me. Let me tell you what my vision, and I hope your vision is for this year. We've heard so much about some wonderful goals today, and they're just glorious goals. And I would love to be able to stand here next year and say, look at what we have put in action, that we've actually done these things. Wouldn't that be thrilling? And all of us can make that happen. The vestry is very important for that, but all of us can make that happen. I think a big part of that, I think we need to improve the communication between our vestry and the congregation. We need to be more open to you. We need to give you opportunities to speak to us, and then you need to speak to us as well. I remember I had a coffee with Chase just a couple weeks ago, and he asked, in your leadership, what are your 3 main rules of success in your supervising? Never heard that question before. And I said, that's easy. Never lie to your people. That's it. So, and with that comes a two-way street. We have an obligation to let you know exactly what's happening, and then you need to be honest with us what you want and need. And then be prepared. If we don't agree with you, we may have a little bit of discussion about that. That's okay. Not a problem at all. But I very much look forward to this year being a much more communicative time with the congregation. You've heard us talk about the centennial. The centennial is an exciting time to look at all the celebration that we have. It's also a time for reflection. It's a time to reflect on some of the bad things that have happened in our church and the difficult things. But we can still remain positive because it took 100 years to get here. It doesn't necessarily have to get fixed this year or next year. We just have to do our best and move it on. It's interesting when people talk to me, they say, oh, you're from the restaurant business. And I always tell them, no, I don't believe I was ever in the restaurant business. I have always believed that I was in the people business. And with that, I've always felt the key is there is so much talent in the world that's untapped. And I was always intrigued, how do you unlock that? What's keeping that down? And so anytime I was assigned a new group of people, I always looked and I thought, okay, what talents they have, and what's keeping them from blossoming and blooming in their life? And there's different obstacles. I thought, well, that's my job, take away the obstacles. Now, many of those obstacles are out in the world, and sometimes I could do something about that. Invariably, I found most obstacles are within us. There are a lack of confidence, all different kinds of things. And the other thing I've always seen is the difference between success and failure is usually infinitesimally small, tiny. It's very small. And at the moment of decision, what I generally find is we all tend to have that fear. At the last minute, we have the fear of failure, and that is paralyzing. So what I would ask of all of you, and this is one thing I'd ask of the vestry, this year, if you could do one thing, please, 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 2 words, be fearless. Thank you.
I want to turn it over to you all. Do you have questions? Do you have thoughts? What do we have? We've been giving you a lot of information, and now we want to hear from you. Oh, Sandy, here.
Kind of a thought and a question. I've been very impressed by the range of social services provided by the church through its various programs. And I wonder, apart from fundraising from the congregation, whether we might pursue grants, for example, from the McKnight Foundation or the Keck Foundation to assist in some of those programmatic social services functions as opposed to necessarily religious functions.
That's actually a great idea. We are looking at various opportunities to get grants for various things. So I would say if you know of grants that we might qualify for, Sarah Nolan is putting together a team to look at those. Email her the grant ideas that you know so we can take a look at those. That's a great idea. Thank you, Sandy. Others? Sally, yes.
Not a question, but I know that Karen Meyer was mentioned and all of her work, but I wanted to mention that Karen Meyer attended those weekly financial accountability team in the church the whole time, and the long tenure that she had, and was an incredible, incredible asset. And we will work with the next treasurer also.
Thank you so much. Other questions or thoughts? Or are you just so amazed you're in silence? Here we are.
Need a mic. Oh. It seems to me that the thing to do now is to do church.
Amen. To do church and to be church. Amen. Absolutely. Thank you very much. Others? Okay. Well, oh, we got Betty Cole.
I confess I never thought I'd be saying this, but do you need any help individually calling or reaching those people that haven't re-pledged? I mean,
Yes, we do. Vestry members have signed up for that, but we could use help. There's a real charism to asking for funds. And if that's something you feel called to, please go email Sarah Nolan, snolan, at allsaints-pas.org. She will put you to work gladly and joyfully. Thank you so much. If you want to help out with that, that's wonderful. Just want to let you also know about some great stuff that's happening. Steve and Clara Williams have secured the rights to Anna Devere Smith's Twilight 1992 Los Angeles, which started out as a one-woman show, and now it's a sort of a multiple cast about the Rodney King uprising and the aftermath. And they're going to be staging it here at All Saints Church on Palm Sunday after church in the afternoon. And some people that you know well in the community will be part of that. And so please come out for that. That's another great thing to invite people into. Crystal.
Hi, I just wanted to say as a Vestry member that it has been a real journey being on the Vestry. It is a joy. I have grown so much. I have really enjoyed watching your leadership, Mike, from the beginning, and also evolve. And my sister and brother and sibling Vestry members, it is exciting, sometimes challenging, but really, we are transforming, I think, as a church. We're looking at some things. When Phil said 20 years we haven't been able to see the skylight, and now we can, maybe that's prophetic and allegorical for something also, and something that has been here before, and maybe we can affect the future. So I just wanted to say, as a Vestry member, I don't know how many more years I have, but with Aaron and Sarah, I forget Samantha, I'm so sorry, and Aaron, and it's just been great to have you as additions too, so thank you.
Thank you all. So I think a couple of us can just hang out here if people want to talk. I do want to say, and this is for people online and everywhere, also, I hope that everyone will try to be here on Saturday, March 23rd at 2 p.m. as we celebrate the life of Marty Coleman. I don't know if there has been a more powerful force at All Saints Church over the last 30, 40 years than Marty. And we're going to celebrate her right. And I just think it's a really, really amazing time for all of us to come together. So please, if you can, and it's also going to be live streamed. So if you can't be here in person, please join and participate with us online. We're going to continue to have financial town hall meetings. As Al said, please talk to your Vestry members. Let them know what's going on, what's on your heart. Betty, I really appreciate you saying, hey, what can I do? Raising your hand. Think about stuff that you can do to pitch in. There's enough work for everyone, and it's really, really, it's a labor of love. And as you said, I think all we do now is let's go be church. And so, Holy God, we thank you for this gathering. We thank you for the many ways that you live and love through us. Send us out into the world as messengers and beacons of your love. In the name of the great healer, Jesus, we pray. Amen. And I call this annual meeting adjourned. Thank you all very much. Enjoy the Oscars. Thanks, Aaron.
Thanks, Mike. Have a great day.